I'm Ashley.
And I'm Jackie. Welcome back to Dumb Witch Club. Today,
why did I do that?
Today we have an amazing episode coming your way, believe it or not. It might look like it's starting off in a very, jerky fashion. Not like jerk, like someone's jerk.
Yeah, like jerky.
Like emotion,
you
know, like a herky-jerky motion.
Jerky?
Yeah, you know what it is.
I feel like I do. I do.
You get it.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then you will.
Whatever.
Anyways, we clearly need help, you see.
Yeah.
This is an episode where actually we're going to help you. Again, believe it or not.
Seems surprising.
Believe it.
Because it seems like we need the help. But, whenever we need the help, we always, find it with each other in this space. And then, we share it out. And that's just the good we're doing in this world.
And that is also why this is called Dumb Witch Club. And welcome. Please don't be scared. Stay for a while.
Please.
It's going to be fun. I promise.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And good for you.
And good. We have this is about retrograde help. Yes. We all need help with retrogrades. We know it's rough.
Yes.
We know it's rough.
Yes.
So we want to give you some advice, give you some tips, give you some things to get you through it the best way possible.
Yeah, because you're going to stay complaining about the retrogrades.
Yeah, I don't think they're not going anywhere. And I think the complaining's not going anywhere.
Never.
So you could count yourself amongst the numbers who might not need to complain quite so much.
Yeah.
Anymore. Be part of the solution and not part of the problem.
I like that.
Yeah.
Good idea.
So, in keeping with trying to do that ourselves, what do you say we do a card pull?
Oh, yeah. Let's do a card pull. Why do I always act surprised at that? I feel like I forget about it until
You're always the one that has the cards, too. See? But, hey, let's mix it up. I've been drawing a lot recently.
Yeah, because you're afraid of what I'm drawing.
No, well, we collectively decided that you were pulling death and transformation way too many times. But that was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago, but this does seem risky on the heels of a Scorpio lunar eclipse.
Okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
That's okay, though. Because maybe it's exactly what we need right now. Who knows?
Well, yeah, and let me just say, I do think you always pull the card you're meant to pull, and so even if you don't like it, even if we didn't like it, that was, it was accurate. It was right.
Yes, it was what it was meant to be.
It was. So we're going to do that yet again, and I'm wondering what you say, what deck we're using.
Passages, Oracle deck. I figured, good for eclipse energy as well.
Yes.
Right?
Passages. Yeah.
Yeah. So I brought this one back because we had been on the.
On the Seasons of the Witch.
Seasons of the Witch, thank you.
Yes. No, I like it. Glad to see it. All right. Here we go.
Well.
Duality. Wow. Very interesting. What do we think? What's your interpretation here?
Well, I feel like this makes a lot of sense right now. I feel like there's a lot, you're like, yes,
and please, add on.
Yes. I feel like with eclipse energy, you do have, right? You are doing a lot of work with your shadow side, or at least that's something good to do during the time. Especially a lunar eclipse in Scorpio.
Very true.
That's, kind of like par for the course, or whatever phrase you said earlier. I think that was it. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is, it really appeals to kind of that energy around looking at your shadow sides, your shadow self, how you've kind of been doing with that, digging a little deeper, right? Navigating over kind of the duality of that.
Yes, and I also think even in terms of this episode subject being retrograde, there's a lot of duality present in retrograde energy.
Exactly.
And I think this also reminds us, the art imagery on here, it is a sun with sort of a moon embedded into, the circle of the sun.
Right.
And obviously it's that eclipse is implied there. And also what's implied is that the duality exists, within the one thing. There's both within the one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think retrogrades also remind us of these concepts. So
Absolutely.
I think, this one makes, it makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel like anytime we get anything about like duality or anything like that, like I always just think about like the two of us.
Of course.
And like
always.
how we're just like counterparts in so many ways.
I know.
And,
I love it.
So I feel like, oh, well, that's us. And it's what we're talking about. So
Perfect choice.
very nice.
Like it wasn't transformation, but it still fits the theme of what's going on very, very well. So perfect.
Nice. Very good.
Yeah. All right.
So we're going to jump next into our why though segment.
Yeah. And we sort of touched on, I mean, as everyone is watching this now, the eclipse will have happened.
Yes.
Yes, it will have happened.
Yes.
You still could be feeling the effects of that because, again, like we've said before, it's not a light switch. Things don't just turn off and all of a sudden go away.
Yes. So that would be May 5th, the date of that eclipse.
Right.
And just really bringing forth a lot of chaotic energy and a lot of taking a look at things and
Absolutely.
sort of, and it's interesting, I feel like, with a lunar eclipse, you know, the moon is a lot about illumination, just as the sun also is. But I think the moon is about that reflective illumination.
Right.
But when there's an eclipse, that's really blocked.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's why things are chaotic. So you're finding yourself not really able to do the reflection and the looking within, which is also the duality of, I think, what you should try to be doing during that time.
Absolutely. And I know, I mean, I'm already kind of obviously feeling it because we're so close to it. And I know it's going to be probably, I have to make sure I'm taking care of myself and stuff. Everybody should be, obviously, but it's happening at 15 degrees Scorpio, and I'm Scorpio sun at 14 degrees Scorpio. So.
Yeah, so that's pretty much hitting you right on the head. So,
yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, no, and I mean, again, not for this time currently, but going into like those degrees of where things are in signs can make a huge difference. So knowing that, it can just help you like feel more like solidified to handle things too.
Yeah, and just prepared. Like, okay, that's going to be happening. But like I said, doing kind of that inner work, that shadow work, really kind of looking at those things and evaluating, you know, what's serving me, what isn't, what do I need to release, what do I, you know, need to bring more into balance, what am I think a lot of times too, I'm thinking about like, what am I afraid of and what's holding me back?
Well, that's such a great question to sort of self-reflect. Yeah.
And just focusing on that.
Where is fear directing me instead of like my values or instead of my courage?
Exactly. And am I afraid of like, you know, losing control over things or not having enough, or, you know, especially with that, the Taurus, being in Taurus season, and that energy is part of it too, you know, that like that fear around like scarcity and not having enough. And am I gripping things too tight, and what do I need to sort of like let go of? And so, I have like my plan for what I'm going to do and what I'm going to think about.
Good.
And obviously like no spell work, no manifesting, just really focusing on that kind of stuff. So.
Yes, no. Well, that is encouraging. And I also know that at the time that this is out, that will have already happened.
Yes.
So tell me, darling, what is the moon kind of doing next? What's the next major phase of the moon, and what are we going to see?
So we're going to have another last quarter moon.
Woo, last quarter moon.
Did I say that I was a last quarter moon girly or a first? I think I said I was a first.
I'm pretty sure you said moon. First, but you can change that if you want.
I just like the quarter moons.
Okay,
maybe I
that's
just
more
like
accurate.
The quarter moons in general.
Oh, that's nice. There's duality in that too.
That's true.
I feel like, oh man, I'm going to be saying duality like 100 times this episode.
I know.
Now. I'm going to keep going back to it.
I love it.
Yet another drinking game.
Right?
How many times am I going to say it?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, line up your shots, people.
There you go.
Also, be responsible. Don't drink.
Yeah,
okay.
Just like Andy Cohen says, don't drink if you're playing the game. Yes. Last quarter moon in Aquarius will be happening. Yeah, I know. It's going to be happening.
Well, for one, I mean, it's just a reminder of like how quickly the moon moves through signs.
I know.
You know, it's like every couple days. So it's like we're currently, you know, on this Scorpio, you know, and then it's already going to be in Aquarius by then. You know, it goes so fast. But
I know, crazy.
Interesting. Okay, so what are you feeling like with that?
I'm trying to gear up for that. I feel like it'll make a little bit more sense as we get there, but I think with that one, it's really looking at, okay, where am I stuck with my thinking, right? Like,
that's another good question, right? To self-reflect. Yes.
Where am I stuck? Where am I, like, what things have sort of become habit that I'm doing that I need to reevaluate, because habit sometimes can be good and can give you structure, but you can get really stuck within habits and patterns. And, you know, if you're not evaluating that and expanding on that, that could be, you know, places that you need to look at. So, for that, yeah, I was feeling like for that, like card pulls would be good around that time to give you some ideas.
Yes, kind of shake things up and see what the cards tell you about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which you may not want to hear, but...
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, even when you're the one asking the questions, like, do you ever want to hear the answers?
No,
like,
never.
I don't.
No.
But I keep doing it anyways. So that's going to be next. It's going to be May 12th. It's going to be that. So another sort of why, though, event that's happening is May 7th. Venus is going into Cancer.
And cue the, cute.
I know. Wait. Well, first of all, we love Venus, and she can do no wrong.
Right.
Whatever she's doing, wherever she is the right place to be.
That's right.
And she's going to tell you the right things through whatever energy that is. Also, my Venus is in Cancer. So I'm like... very loving.
I know.
Lovely.
It's your little, like, softy spot.
It is, like, one of my very few soft spots, I feel like.
It's a lovely one, though, to have a soft spot in. Like, it's the perfect placement to have that.
I think so.
And
I really do.
It's such a beautiful placement. Like, it's so intuition-based.
Yes, I think it's very intuition-based. It's a... You know, which, like everything, has its good and its bad, right? Like, on the good side, it's just like, if I'm going with it, I'm just going with it. And I feel like that's right.
Right.
But then on the other side, it's kind of like, you know, you can be blinded by those types of things, which we have talked about in various ways as well. So just, as usual, always about balance and the duality of both sides of it. But I think Venus in Cancer, yes, it's very intuitive. It's very nurturing.
Yeah.
Venus in Cancer likes to take care of the people they love and feed people and nurture people and create a sense of just like really enveloping with love and care. To look at another side of Venus, obviously it is about love, but it's not just about love.
Right.
It's also about money and material things. And so just in that sense too, like kind of focusing on creating comforts and, you know, again, like being home, still in that Taurus energy as well.
Definitely.
And just kind of creating comfort for yourself. And I know we've talked before about, like, the winter time is kind of the cozy comfort. But there's other versions of comfort.
Absolutely. And I love that you talked about it like that, because it has almost like a mothering energy to it.
100%, yes.
And not almost, like it does. Right?
Yeah.
Cancer has a mothering energy to it.
Yes.
But, you know, I think a good point to that, too, is that, like, sometimes you need to be, like, your own parent. You need to really, like, parent or mother, whatever words you sort of resonate with, yourself. And so that's a reminder during this period when Venus is in Cancer, for those of us who don't have that placement and don't, you know, automatically feel that way, to really kind of do that for yourselves. And everything has been so out of bounds and fraught, and, like, Pluto's acting crazy and whatever, that, like, this is good.
Yes, no, it really is. And I also just want to give a little preview. Venus is, once she goes into Leo, is going to have her retrograde period in Leo. So that's going to be an exciting, very, like, energetic time, I feel like, with Venus. So this is kind of like I don't want to say the calm before the storm, because I don't want to portray, like, a negative connotation to the retrograde or to Venus in Leo. But I do think it's this period of kind of, like, we're not there yet.
Yes, definitely.
We're just right here. Just be here.
We're in, like, soft girl spring, and then later on it's going to be, like, hot girl summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or what do we like to have, like, Victorian fainting couch summer?
Yes. I love that so much.
Yeah.
Yes. Just languish on fainting couches and talk about, you know, how the men went off on the fox hunt or whatever it is that they would do.
Who knows?
We would eat treacle tarts. Treacle tarts are a thing.
Oh, yeah. Probably delicious. Treacle is so sweet.
It's probably so good.
Yeah, seriously.
Why can't we do that?
I know, or we could make a raspberry fool.
So good. A pavlova.
Ooh, I love a pavlova. So
I'm
good.
obsessed with pavlova, and it's not.
It's so good. It's so easy to make.
It's not a thing here. Like, they don't have it here
It's
anywhere.
literally, it's like a meringue, but it's like a cake. It's super good.
Yeah, and I, like, really don't like meringue in general.
No, I don't either, but
I love a pavlova.
Mm-hmm. Same.
My Irish aunt was all about a pavlova. Wherever they had it, she would order it. She loved it.
It's so, because then you can cut it like a slice.
She loved it. It was her favorite
And
thing.
then you can put whipped cream and berries on it. Ooh, okay, I'm making one. I'm going to make you one.
Oh my God. When Jackie promises to make you something, like, your life is about to change. You don't even know. You don't
Venus in Cancer. I'm like, what do you want? Let me give it to you. I'm going to make it for you. Here it is. I love you.
Can I tell them about the hummingbird cake?
Yes.
Okay. I have a quick story. Ashley's story time. Here we go. One time I was in a terrible mood, and it was a bad time, and it was a bad place, and we were surrounded by bad people. And if you're watching that and that's you, I don't like you. Anyway, over that.
Yeah.
And all I had was Jackie, really, and I told her that day when we were in the bad place with the bad people that I probably had no other reason to live other than I really wanted a hummingbird cake. If you don't know what a hummingbird cake is, you should look it up. It's amazing. It's my favorite cake. And I said it. I thought nothing else of it because I was in the bad place with the bad people.
Yes.
And every day was like that. And then I came to work the next day, and lo and behold, I had an entire beautiful, perfect hummingbird cake just waiting for me.
That's right. And she took a picture of it.
Took a picture of it, and I ate the entire thing.
And the bad people also saw the cake. And they were like, ooh, Jackie brought cake. And I'm like, not for you. This is Ashley's cake. Everyone's like, oh, what? She needs the whole cake? I'm like, that's right.
That's right. And I did.
Ta-da.
And that's my hummingbird cake story. And it was the best cake I ever had in my life. And it saved my life, frankly.
It actually did. And it's a very, very good cake.
It's so good. It's so good. But I don't know. Any old raggedy hummingbird cake, I don't know if it's going to be good.
No, we can't vouch for all hummingbird cakes.
Can't promise. But when Jackie's going to make you something, you just consider yourself lucky.
Yes. Well, thank you. And I'll, again, just say Venus and Cancer. That's what that is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, it is.
Awesome.
I love that.
Amazing. Okay, well, I love these stories, and that is kind of the why, though, for us this time.
Yeah.
Ooh, what are we giving our big witch energy to today?
Retrogrades.
I love your, like, operatic announcements of, like, all of our subjects lately. It's amazing.
I know.
But also, this is HELP for retrogrades. Help. Oh, we're like, you know, like the lady tied to the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
I love that in the silent movies.
Help.
Yes.
Isn't there like a Betty Boop? There's a Betty Boop.
Oh, there's like a million things.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Betty Boop.
Or
Absolutely,
like olive oil or something.
I'm sure they all did it.
Yeah.
But it was like those silent films, like I'm sure, like, you know, Myrna Loy probably did one, you know? Anyways, retrograde help. We are here to the rescue.
We're here to help.
Believe it or not, we are here to help. So starting off first, what the heck is a retrograde? Okay, we hear about these a lot,
Good question.
happening frequently. All planets go into retrograde.
Yep.
For different amounts of time and at different intervals, but it's very, very regular. It's extremely predictable. There's this really cool way, and maybe at some other point, that you can sort of map the path of any planet around the Earth. And two planets' paths together form like these dances, and they're like these beautiful spiral, like elliptical, like
I love that.
patterns, and it's so cool. So anyways, retrograde is when a planet appears to stop and then go backwards in the sky, which is basically like left in the sky.
Right.
It's a matter of perspective.
Right.
If you're on Earth, which is the stationary object, then the things traveling around you appear to do different things because you are stationary.
Exactly.
Because the Earth is stationary. And retrogrades happen when the planet is at its closest point to the Earth.
Right.
Because even just thinking in terms of perspective, when something's far away, you're not, it's like it's just going on a straight path. That's right. When it's direct or moving forward is usually, what the planets are all doing. So we're all going the same direction. But anyway, so that's what a retrograde is. And
not a lot of people would know that. They hear the word, they think they know what it is. They just associate it with being like a crazy time or something chaotic, right?
Yeah.
And like they just latch onto the word, but they don't really like actually bother to know what it means. And I get that because there's so much to know. It's like, how am I really going to understand this? But that is exactly what it is. And it's just the planet, it's not actually physically doing that, but it's our perspective that that's happening. And that is absolutely valid. That does impact the way that we receive the energy and what we feel from it.
Yes, because the Earth is the stationary object upon which that energy is being radiated.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's a great explanation of retrograde.
Thank you. So also just to define a little bit more, so there's a couple other terms. You'll hear that like a planet is stationing. That's when it appears to be actually stopped in the sky.
Yeah.
And that is right before it goes into retrograde and when it's finished in retrograde and it's going to go back direct.
Yeah.
There's another term called the retrograde shadow.
Yeah.
And that, as far as to my understanding or the way that I interpret that, does not have a specific length of time.
No.
But it could also be linked to, and I've heard this a little bit, but not often. Again, we're getting into degrees and things. Don't want to get too complicated. But the degree at which a planet is, the degree that it will return back to at the end of the retrograde,
right?
That time period between those, being there, going back, and getting back is the shadow
period.
But I also think you don't have to know those exact things.
No.
It's kind of just a few days to a week before and after.
Yeah, just kind of think about like the buildup of energy before something happens. That's really all you need to think about with this. It's the same as when any other event is sort of going to happen. And we've talked about that a lot too, is like you feel that energy sort of arriving and you feel it trailing off and leaving. Same thing.
Exactly. So just sort of to put a point on, there is a way to define it very specifically, but you don't need to do that.
Nah.
For just, practical purposes or impractical purposes.
Exactly.
So, okay, like I was saying, all planets go into retrograde.
Yeah.
So Mercury, our good old standard friend, our good old retrograde buddy, goes into retrograde for 21 days at a time, about every 4 months, a little less than every 4 months, every 3.8 months. So it's frequently.
Yeah, it's pretty
often. And it stays there for 3 weeks.
Right.
And this is standard. This happens
consistently.
So that's why we're always here. It's like people are like, well, Mercury's always in retrograde. Well, not always. It's actually every 21 days, every 3.8 months. But
it's very trackable. I know. I feel like
frequent.
the way that people talk about it, it's like as if it's random. And it's like, and it's like, well, it's random to you because you forgot it was happening, which, hey, all the time.
Yes.
But it's not random, though.
Yes. But it is the planet that goes into retrograde the most frequently because it's the closest to Earth. And retrogrades happen when a planet is its closest to Earth, and Mercury is closest to begin with. So just to name, generally speaking, Venus also has a 21-day retrograde period. But that happens every 19 months.
Right.
Which means it only ends up happening every couple of years.
Right.
So that's a less frequent, so you could say a more impactful retrograde.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah, on the bigger stage, right?
Yes. And then you have Mars, which goes into retrograde for 72 days, which is like 3.5 months, every 25 months. So again, it's every couple years, a little bit longer, but it stays in that retrograde for a lot longer.
Right.
And we just had Mars in retrograde in Gemini earlier this year. So Mars is not going to go in retrograde again for 25 more months from the time that it ended.
Yeah.
So again, sort of good news. You're like, well, I don't really need to deal with that one too often.
Yeah, can't blame Mars.
Yeah, you can always blame Mercury, though. Just generally speaking, all of the further out planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, each of those go into retrograde for 121 to 158 days. I'm not going through them one by one. But that's like 4 or 5 months at a time of being in retrograde. And they do that, all of those, approximately every 12 months.
Right.
So it's pretty frequent. It doesn't make it once a year. It's because it stays there for so long, you have 12 months in between.
Exactly.
It's still, like every 18 months or so.
Sure.
And they're all on their own trajectories. They're all on their own in different signs when these things are happening.
Yeah.
Sometimes they overlap a little. Anyway, the point is, retrogrades are happening almost all of the time.
Yeah.
One planet or another.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting how Venus being pretty close, Mars being pretty close, have a lot longer of not being in retrograde than some of these further out planets do.
Yeah, that is interesting. I know. And I think that will be news to a lot of people, like how often these retrograde periods are actually happening. Because I think, for one, people mostly focus on Mercury. And it's not anybody's fault, because that's what's talked about the most. Probably because it's the most frequent and because of what it tends to do. I think people focus on it.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, that it just kind of acknowledging and knowing, like, there's retrograde energy happening kind of constantly. Like, if you think of it sort of that way, like somewhere in the sky, there's probably retrograde happening. I don't know. I feel like it makes you feel a little bit more comfortable with the concept. Like, we're constantly being told to kind of slow and evaluate just in different areas. It's popping up all the time.
Exactly. And one more point to make is that, so a retrograde will, especially when you're thinking of a further out planet that stays in the same sign for, 12, 20, however many years, those retrogrades are going to be back and forth within the same sign. So the energy is not really shifting massively. It's kind of just going back and forth through the same filter, And again, there could still be major differences in things that you feel and notice. But when it goes backwards from one into the previous and then back up into the next on those cusp kind of spaces, I feel like that's when you can feel those a lot more.
I totally agree with that.
And Mercury often goes back and forth between signs during its many retrograde periods. Although this year they're all contained within one sign, which is interesting.
Yeah. No, I think you're 100% right about that too. Because when it's within the same, like we talked about this, I don't know if it was the last episode or the one before, but we talked about, I think I said something about, well, because it's in Taurus, then maybe in its Taurus season, that's good. And,
and then we're like,
you were like, I feel like that makes it worse.
I know. And then I'm like, don't listen to me. I'm so
You're like, never mind, listen to her. I'm like, no, listen to whoever, just do whatever.
Listen to yourself.
Listen to yourself. You should just, however you want to feel about it.
But so that was my, primer on retrogrades.
Great.
Yes. Oh, and I feel like I keep talking, but I'll just say one more thing. If in your natal chart, so in your birth chart.
Oh, yes, we need this part. Yeah.
You may have planets that were in retrograde at the time that you were born. And those will be indicated by a little R usually next to the information on your printout or your chart. So depending on which planet it is, which, we'll kind of get into a little bit more, you may feel sort of out of step with convention or with norms in that area. And during retrogrades of that planet or retrogrades in general, especially if you have more than one planet in retrograde in your chart, you may be affected more strongly by retrogrades.
Absolutely.
Strongly positive, strongly negative. I don't think that is clear or definitive. It could be either way.
Yeah, absolutely. Just depending on so many other factors. But yeah, for sure.
Yes. So take a look, see in your chart if you have things in retrograde or not. And
some people have quite a few, some people have none. It just depends.
Yeah, it just depends. So, okay, all right. So now that we went through a whole little lesson, let's get to our top 3 steps.
Yeah. This is what we need.
This is what you need to know to get through any retrograde.
Yeah, because it's good to know what it is. It's good to have the knowledge, but then it's like, okay, yeah, but what do I do?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we're going to tell you.
We're going to tell you.
What to do.
Don't worry.
And
actually, you're going to tell me. Well, I'm going to listen.
We're going to tell each other, and we're going to tell them, and it's just going to be great.
Yeah. But what
I love this. So remember, it's not just Mercury that goes into retrograde. I know we've hammered that point a bunch, but it isn't. However, for our purposes to make it kind of easier, we're going to kind of go with Mercury as a little sample and example, but not the only one, as we just explained.
Yes. But it also currently is in retrograde right now.
Yeah, which is partly why we were like, okay, this could be good to sort of discuss. But
yes.
Yeah, so when you're dealing, or you think you're dealing with retrograde energy, you're not sure what to do, there's a few things that you can check to kind of give you a little bit of a blueprint on what to do. And one of the things that you can do is check where whatever sign that planet is retrograding in, check where that sign is in your birth chart.
Meaning, what house falls under that sign in your birth chart, in your personal birth chart.
Right.
Which, as we've spoken about, is determined by your rising sign and sort of follows around the wheel after that.
Right.
Yes.
And
And why does that matter?
Well, because that can inform you of where that energy of this current retrograde is kind of affecting in your life. What kind of stage or setting of your life that's kind of touching.
Yes, exactly. And, just a little sneak preview. After we go through this generally, we are going to illustrate this using our own charts and the current Mercury retrograde.
Fancy.
Yes.
So fancy. So, so you can look at that, look at the sign, look at how many planets might be in that sign. What do those planets sort of rule over? What do they symbolize? And are there any key or important aspects? How are they talking to each other? And is that showing up for you in any way?
Yes. That's awesome. So checking that out will sort of give you a sense of agency and empowerment, knowing where you might be seeing things happening for you and being able to decide and plan on how you might handle those things.
Exactly.
Right. And that's going to change every time there's a retrograde of any planet, including Mercury. It's going to be in a different sign, which means it's going to be in a different place in your chart. A different house in your chart.
Right. So it's going to be hitting all those different areas. And again,
at different times, correct.
Like we mentioned before when Jackie was talking about how often they stay sort of in those periods and everything, that, it's always going to come up in a different spot. So sometimes it's going to feel, you're really going to be feeling that energy and feeling that impact. And other times you might be like, oh, there was a retrograde happening. Didn't have any idea.
Yeah, exactly. And it really does depend on like what else is going on in your life too, and what things are presenting themselves and how well certain areas of your life are already stable or maybe are already in transition, and a lot of things like that.
Absolutely.
Which is why you really can't say, oh, this retrograde's bad or this retrograde's good for anyone without knowing a lot of details. And if you're talking about yourself, you're going to know.
Exactly. Perfect. So another thing you can do is check where that planet is in your chart.
So the retrograding planet in question, which could be any of the planets at any time, whichever time.
Yes.
See where that planet is in your chart.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So like in your birth chart. Right?
Yeah. Look at the sign that it's in. Look at that area of life that presents. And what you need to pull into balance with that.
Yes. Okay. Excellent. Another place to look.
Another clue to find.
We're turning over stones.
We are. Last thing, check the house that the planet rules.
Okay. So, in your previous step 2, like where a planet is in your birth chart is not ever going to change. Like that's it's permanently at your birth chart. It was there then, it's moved since, but it was there then.
Right.
This also does not change.
Yeah.
All of the planets are associated with a house and rulership.
Yes.
So those things you can look up and check.
Yeah, it's very easy to look up. You can find a little chart that shows you, each planet and what house they rule over and sort of what, the idea is in that house. So, so if you look at that, you can look up planets that may be housed there and see what's going on with that. You can look up, there are ways to look up what planets might be currently transiting that house. There's like websites where you can look that up. One of them is AstroSeek, where you can look up and see kind of, okay, what planets are transiting that house currently. Or if you don't have any planets in that house, you can just focus on the sign that house is in for you and the energy of that sign and sort of how that plays with the other energies that are at place, and the different aspects of that.
So, to illustrate this further, we are going to use Ashley's steps with the current Mercury retrograde and our own placements, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, for step 1, so Mercury is currently in Taurus. It's currently retrograding in Taurus. So, for myself, as an Aries rising, Taurus is my second house, which is its natural house. So I feel like that's kind of boring, but it also makes it kind of easy to understand, because if you just look up the second house and Taurus, same energies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that's boring, though.
Well, I don't think it's boring either, but I thought maybe someone else might think it was boring.
No, I think it helps us. No,
and if they do, I don't care. I don't care if they do.
Better not think that's boring, because it's not boring. It's perfect. It's exactly the way that it was supposed to be. And I feel like it makes it make more sense. Like, it helps to make it make more sense.
Yes, I kind of thought that too. So where is Taurus in your chart? What house?
12th house.
12th house, because you are a Gemini rising.
I am a Gemini rising.
Yeah.
I think I've mentioned that a couple of times.
We may have mentioned all of this a couple of times.
Probably.
Whatever. So the second house is the house of resources. It is about, your resources, your material wealth, finances, material possessions. It could even be emotional or interpersonal resources. It's not really about relationships, but I think the ways that other people can be useful to you in your life. So, and I don't have any planets in my second house. So I'm really just looking at that sign energy, looking at Mercury currently being in Taurus, which if you just generally think about Mercury being in Taurus, that is the second house energy.
Yeah, it is.
I feel like for me, this is why I don't feel like, and we've talked about this too, I don't feel like a lot of stress over a lot of retrogrades or anything.
Sure.
And I sort of just chalk that up to like my Aries rising and just the fact that all of this stuff falls into like the natural houses. So it's not really disruptive in a lot of ways that others are when they're bringing conflicting or just different energies.
Sure. I feel like for you, probably what might be, this is just like, I'm speculating on this, but because of that for you, I feel like maybe what's frustrating for you, and maybe other people who are like you might identify with this or not, I don't know, but I'd be curious to know. Maybe for you, it's almost like, why are we slowing down on this? Like, I don't need to, okay, can we just, I already understand the assignment. That's 100%. What I feel like it is more for you. It's not like the way it is for some of the rest of us who are like, what does this mean? And oh my God, like, what's happening? You're like, we're still on this?
Yeah. I'm like, I got it already. And now we're going, okay, I got it. Yeah. It's fine. I already got it. No, you're absolutely right. That's how it feels to me.
That's what I feel like it is.
Yes, and I feel like especially these current retrogrades with Mercury, which, like I was saying, are all contained within the sign. It's not going back into Aries. It's not doing anything interesting. I'm just like, dude, I got it.
Like enough already.
We're here. We're in Taurus still. It's fine. I get it.
Yeah, it's funny because I hadn't thought about it until this moment. When
I think you're absolutely right, though. Yeah, because that is the
prior
energy.
To this, I was like, oh yeah, it probably doesn't really. And then I'm like, no, you know what's frustrating to her? That's frustrating to her.
Yep.
I wonder if other people feel the same way.
Yeah,
very curious to know.
Very, very good. Okay, so let's talk about for you.
Yeah, so
Taurus,
12th house.
Do you have planets there?
No
planets.
I do not.
Okay.
I really don't quite know how to interpret that.
See, again, mine was like, got it, easy. This one's like conundrum.
It's very strange for me, particularly like 12th house energy and just how sort of deep and intense that is, and like life and death cycle stuff. I don't know.
Well, and so, Mercury being in Taurus, bringing a very like grounded communication, but sort of a like almost just here's the stuff kind of thing,
Yeah, it almost feels, it almost feels a little bit, well, it feels very clashy energy. Like, that does not feel like that is right. It doesn't feel like it's home. It doesn't feel right to me, like, with all of my other placements. Like, as a Scorpio, and a lot of Scorpio energy in my chart and stuff, like, and that energy doesn't feel like it matches in that area.
So do you feel yourself pulled in any way to revisit or examine that area of your life through a grounded sort of perspective or something?
Probably. And I think that that's what ultimately I'm being, like, called to do, is to, like, pull that into more of a grounding energy and not get so kind of, you know, in my feels and in the deeper water about it, but bring a little bit more grounding energy to it.
Okay. All right. But maybe, you know, could take a little more look at that.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's go to your step 2, your second piece of advice, which was to see where the planet in question is in your birth chart. So for me, in my natal chart, Mercury is in Leo.
Look at that.
I imagine that. And again, because of my Aries rising, Leo is my 5th house, which is the house of self-expression, creativity, and sort of the outward projection of who you are.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel about that? I have my thoughts, but how do you feel about that?
Well, I guess with, like, Mercury being in retrograde, as far as that goes, I don't know. I don't really care.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was like, so you just don't care, huh?
Yeah, not really. I'm just like, yeah, I'm already doing this. It's fine. Like, I'm going. Okay, fine. I'll wait.
Do it again. Okay.
But I'm still going to go.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's fine.
So, okay,
yeah.
cool. Sounds good.
Yeah, you got it.
Exactly what I was going to say. I was waiting
Read
for
me
you.
like a book.
It's great. I love it. It's so good.
Okay, what about you?
Yeah, Mercury's in Scorpio.
Yes.
In the 5th house.
Yes.
Yes.
This was interesting. We had never made this connection until we were going over this episode.
Yeah.
That we both have Mercury in our 5th house.
Yes.
Which I think is very interesting, even in terms of Dumb Witch Club and all of this.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I mean, communication and expression and the written word, the spoken word, all of that is
outward expression on ourselves and our beings, for sure. And I mean, mine is more that spotlight Leo energy, and then yours is that, like, you know, you're in the shadows, but you're also not in the shadows. You're a Scorpion, everyone can see you.
Exactly.
But you're like, nah, I'm here, and everyone's like, cool, you be there.
Yeah, and they're, like, kind of scared, and I'm like, it's okay, don't be scared.
Yeah. And then I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, leave her alone.
Jackie's like, I'm not scared.
Yeah, I'm not scared. Come here. Shine some light on you, baby.
I love that. I'm like, okay, you can do that.
I love that too. So just to use this as the example, when Mercury's in retrograde, you can also look at where it is in your chart, what sign it is in your natal chart, and then what house that goes with. That's another area where you may or may not be feeling different kinds of things.
Yeah, and you could be. And, like, you know, with it being in our 5th house and related to sort of that self-expression part, or even, like, some of the other aspects of
I had another idea.
Oh, okay. Like, you know, like a pleasure and all this kind of stuff. I don't know. Maybe you could be feeling it in there. Maybe you could be, like, not expressing yourself the way that you would be choosing to, like, that's authentic to you at the time. Or maybe you're not centering pleasure for yourself, or you're, you know, like, there could be some of that going on where you're needing to focus on that a little bit more and do what, I mean, in our case, like, that you're naturally gifted at and good at.
Yes. Oh, I like that you said that. No, the little idea that I had was that we have been talking recently, and I'm just thinking about how this is playing out for the two of us, which is just hopefully, like, illustrating how people can look at their own charts with this.
Yeah.
Knowing that Mercury is in both of our 5th houses, even though we're there in different signs, in terms of Dumb Witch Club, like, we just, this past week, we're like, you know, we need to sort of sit down, have, like, a strategy meeting, talk about planning some things for the future, which is, like, that That's the retrograde energy.
Very much so.
And it doesn't feel like it's dragging backwards or it's like frustrating. It's more like it's time to revisit what we've already done.
Absolutely.
And look ahead to what we need to do next.
Look at that.
Yes.
That is absolutely
I can't
what
snap my
happened.
fingers because this ring is on and it's blocking me, but yeah.
Love that ring. Such a good ring.
Yes, I know. It's super good.
But yes, that's absolutely true. I didn't even put the pieces of that together until right now as you said that.
Yeah, same. Me too. So, okay, on to step 3. So Mercury rules the 3rd house, which is the house of communication, unsurprisingly. And that is just a fact. That is all the time. And every planet has its own, right?
Yes.
So we're talking about Mercury. And this doesn't change.
Right.
Yeah. So you can always see, and this is where we kind of get just the general traditional advice on Mercury in retrograde, which is like, watch out for miscommunication, watch out for errors in technology, details, gossip, stories, learning, perception, all that stuff, which is all of the stuff of the 3rd house, which is all of the stuff of Mercury, which is also all of the stuff of Gemini. So,
exactly.
Yes.
And that's why you'll hear that more as just like a general piece of advice, because that would, sort of generally apply to everybody, which is fine, but that's why sometimes maybe that doesn't make sense because there's all these other layers. So you can dig a little deeper. But, it is good to kind of look at that in general as well. And you will notice those things happening sometimes more than others. So
100%. So I loved your 3 steps or your 3 ideas. I think just to kind of give 3 more sort of like tools for survival of retrogrades before we finish up here. One would be to slow down. So this is for Mercury, slow down in your communications.
Right.
Whatever planet is in retrograde, slow down with whatever that planet is representing. So in terms of, just to name another one, Pluto, which is also in retrograde right now, which rules, personal transformation, psychological depth, sexuality, obsession, this kind of energies. Slow down, notice patterns, be conscious when Pluto's in retrograde of those specific areas. Right. And again, doing that same steps of looking at what houses and things for yourself personally.
Exactly.
So anyway, number 1 being slow down. Number 2, take everything with a grain of salt.
Right. Absolutely.
Whatever planet is in retrograde, whatever house you find that in for yourself, just don't take it personally. Yes, your life is about you, but all of this stuff in the universe is not about you.
Right.
So slow down, take things with a grain of salt. And yeah, I think I already kind of said this, but the point of being just notice patterns.
Absolutely.
Notice patterns.
Yeah.
Take a look at everything.
Yeah. Notice the patterns. Notice what's the patterns that are serving you, the patterns that are not.
Yes.
And, if you're repeating things, it's not always necessarily a frustrating or bad thing. I know that it feels that way to certain people sometimes, but sometimes it's an opportunity to just look at it. Maybe you'll learn something new. Maybe you won't, and you just have to get through it. That's fine. But it's an opportunity to revisit, reevaluate, slow down. And we don't get enough of those opportunities in this society that we live in. Yes. So when the Astros are reminding us to do that, it's important that we pay attention and actually just follow that advice.
I agree. And I also think that maybe that's part of why we end up feeling so frustrated with retrogrades, because it's not congruent with sort of fast-paced hustle culture, capitalist life that we are all sort of just dropped down into.
Totally, especially Mercury, because people need everything right away, right? Yeah. You have to answer texts right away, answer emails right away. Everything is instant, and when, it's not, and you're seeing, things are slowing down, breaking down, you can't get a hold of people, you can't, do something because of technology, people freak out.
Absolutely. And Mercury is the fastest planet, and it's the messenger, and it slows down, stops, and retrogrades every few months. So get used to it. Do it.
Yeah,
Follow the lead.
Embrace it.
Embrace it.
Feel it.
Absolutely. I think we have given out and also taken some very good advice.
I agree.
On retrograde help. And hopefully you feel more prepared moving forwards.
Good luck in Mercury retrograde. Now you can do it.
Yes, you can do it. So until next time.
Stay witchy, friends.
And stay dumb.
Dumb Witch Club is written and produced by us, Ashley Sidner
and Jackie Gerard at the Dumb Witch Clubhouse in Orange County, California.
Produced and edited by Matt Heinemeyer. Creative director and culture consultant, Violet Turner.
Original music by Ashley Sidner. And look us up on all your favorite social media platforms, including Patreon.
Until next time, stay witchy, friends.
And stay dumb.